Hello, and welcome to another episode of Liberated Panda. I'm here joined by a very special guest. His name is Christoph. But before I let Christoph introduce himself to you, I just want to show everyone a little video that'll give you a nice introduction to our very special guest today. Here it is.
Hello， 我是老雷，这个是 Liberated Panda， 然后好像我是主持人，今天跟我一块主持人的是主持这个节目的是 Angel 他，那 Angel， 请自我介绍。
Christoph, 你好，你说的中文比我好。That's why I had Christoph introduce today's show for us, and he's going to co-host today because we have a lot to talk about. Not only do we want to know who Christoph is, why we're interested in him, and what's up with that beard, but we also had tons to talk about. So Christoph was kind enough to say, we're going to have a no holds bar conversation, right? So we're going to talk about everything, China, US, how Germans feel about China, US. I know you're doing the walk, you're in Georgia right now. I mean, there's so many things going on. I'm sure you have many opinions. Joe Biden's the new president. There was a Capitol 6, insurrection. I mean, just so many things have been going on, and yet we're all in COVID pandemic.
I heard about that.
I know, right? Just completely slipped my mind with all this other like news, like just comes constantly bombarding us. But so I thought a fun way to kind of like get us into like the deep topic is to talk about like your background and, what brought you, to this point in your life. How do you know Chinese? I'm sure many of our viewers are wondering. I know that you were, quite famous in China, or you hosted in China. So tell us all about that, your journey to China and your childhood and all of that good stuff.
All right. So I came to sinology, the study of Chinese culture, by accident. I never wanted to go to university, but it was decided by my family that after finishing high school, I should go to university. It's a thing. You got to do something with your life. So I ended up going to a university, and I had to pick one major and two minors. And because I didn't want to study and I didn't know what to study, I picked, I believe it was politics as a major and history as a minor. And the second minor, I kind of had a wild card. So I wanted to do Japanese because I had a Japanese buddy, and because, Japan is pretty big in porn. So I figured if I were to understand what they're actually saying in those movies, that would be nice.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I'm being pretty candid here.
Hey, you gotta be honest.
That was in 2003. So I have this document there that I'm supposed to fill out, and I'm looking for Japanese studies. But then I see this thing, and it's called sinology. It's China studies. And I'm like, well, there's like 100 million Japanese people, but there's like 1 billion Chinese people. So like,
yes,
whenever you study a language, it seems to be kind of a no-brainer that you want to study a language that you can actually use.
Sure.
Like I would never study, and I'm sorry, but I would never study Icelandic, because it would be like you study so hard and you never find an Icelandic person ever.
Right.
Like, it's not even a part of Beijing, the whole population of Iceland. So then I just, by accident, made this mark at sinology. And I ended up studying sinology for 2 years. It was hell. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have a connection to China whatsoever, because I just randomly made the mark. Everybody else in my class, they had some sort of connection to China. They liked, I don't know, Kung Fu, Wushu. Or they had been to China with their parents or whatever, or they liked, I don't know, tea culture or traditional Chinese medicine, and those were the worst ones, they either had a Chinese partner or they were Chinese, second or third generation. They knew Chinese, but they wanted to kind of get better.
Okay, kind of like me.
I hated them. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on. Chinese people, they all look the same. To me at that point, like Asians in general, I'm like, what do they do with, like, at that point in my life, I'm like, I don't know. They in China, they have Bruce Lee, they have Mao, they have a Great Wall, and they eat lots of rice. That was it.
Right. That's what you thought before. That's all you knew before.
That's what I knew before I signed up. And then
right. As most foreigners, right? As many foreigners, maybe.
I think it would be insulting to claim that everybody was as ignorant as me, but I was. Like, for me, really, like, if you'd have pointed at a traditional, I don't know, a Vietnamese garment, I would have said like probably Chinese or Korean whatsoever. I don't know.
Right.
So 2 years of that stuff, we studied modern Chinese, we studied classical Chinese, we studied politics, history, geography, religion, literature, everything. And still you don't know anything. Like 2 years of that stuff, everything is kind of bookish. Okay. And then we go to China. Like there was like this scholarship program where you could be sent to a Chinese university for an exchange thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I end up in the film academy in Beijing. Mm-hmm. And I find out I can't even order food with my Chinese. Like I could take a dictionary and I could, in a painstaking process, I could maybe translate 庄子 or 孔子, but I can't just go in and say I want 宫保鸡丁 because I don't know what the hell that is. Like, you know, when you learn something from books, yeah, often not very helpful. But it took me like, I don't know, maybe a few months. And then the food, the people who were obviously very different from each other, the dynamics of the whole place, like everybody kind of being looking for something, and the country reinventing itself so quickly, and the old stuff and the new stuff. And I just started really liking it, I gotta say. Like it came really quick. And then I could also kind of see like this kind of insulting point that I just made, kind of hyperbolic, where I said like all Asians look the same. It kind of works the other way around too, like where people will be like, aren't you that guy? And I'll be like, no, I'm not that guy. That's another one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
right. It's the same with other cultures as well. So you don't need to beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, it's just this thing that you're never really aware of, that you know, like in your world, there's so many differences between the people that are around you. They'd be like, you must be an idiot to not know that we're all different. But like from their point of view, it's like, the white people.
Yeah, white girl then.
Yeah. So so then I was in China for 2 years, and I at some point got this weird idea that I could just walk back from Beijing. So I actually tried. I packed my bag, I prepared everything, and I started out from Beijing in 2007 on my birthday, 26.
So what prompted that, you know, you said you had a crazy idea. What motivated you to have this crazy idea to walk?
I think I'm naive, and I'm a romantic at heart. Like I really like adventure literature. I like this Mark Twain stuff, Jack London stuff. And I previously walked from Paris to my home, which is nothing. Like it's like 800 kilometers. I don't know, 500 miles or something. Right. You can do that. It's possible. It sounds long, but it's really not very long. So I was like, if I can do that, and then, you know, like with all my romantic ambitions, I can do Beijing to Germany. So I started walking. I walked for a year. And then after a year, I was still in China because it's a huge place.
Right.
And also really slow. And then I gave up. So yeah, I went home, and I made a video about my face transforming from I'm in Beijing, and I'm kind of a little more chubby and well-shaven and kind of optimistic. And then I get to Ürümqi in Xinjiang, and it shows, like the hardships they show.
Yeah.
went viral. And yeah, then I went viral on the Chinese internet. I made an account on Weibo. And I was just gonna promote myself as a person who has traveled through China, who knows a bit of Chinese, and who wants to sell stuff. Like I write books. At that point, I'd started writing books. So I was like, you know, why not also sell books to Chinese people? So I make this Weibo account. I kind of do this, do you know 卖乖?
卖乖.
Or like 卖萌, where you're like, you know, hey, look at me, I'm this cool foreigner, I know a bit of Chinese, you know, like this kind of stuff. So I'm kind of like that.
Wait, so I'm sorry, 卖红是 what does it literally mean in English for our English viewers at home?
You could be 卖乖, where you're like, you're selling 乖, how could you say that? 乖 is like,
polite? Obedient?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Okay. Like you're like this non-threatening kind of person. Yeah, and you're like pretending, you know, like with your the flower thing. Yeah. So I would be like this just kind of friendly foreigner who knows a bit of Chinese and who has traveled through this country that I really like.
Yes.
And then I found out on Weibo that people were actually talking about politics. That was in 2011-12 when, you know.
Oh, interesting.
Things hadn't really gotten to the point where they're at right now.
Yeah.
So at first, I was just kind of taken aback at the comments about Germany that people would make on Weibo, where they'd be like, you know, Germans, they're always on time, not like us. And they read literature on the subway. And I'd be like, no, we don't. Like, there are things to praise about Germany from the Chinese perspective, but you don't make up this image of these weird ass Germans that are on the subway with their, I don't know, like what they're reading, Goethe or something. No. Right. So I would share my own view. And then it would kind of go into, you know, I have views on Mao Zedong that kind of come from my studies. Like we studied the sinology, China studies, and we take it quite seriously. And then when people go like, yeah, nobody died in the Great Leap Forward. You know, I don't know if you know the Great Famine. From
of course, sure, yeah,
tens of millions died, and then people are like, yeah, it wasn't so bad, and I'm like, it was bad. So I would kind of share my opinion, and then I gathered a following, and I wasn't cute anymore.
Wait, so how old are these people that you're talking to, where you're talking about the Great Leap Forward? Because in my experience, the older generation, they know about it, obviously, because they've experienced it. I know about it because my parents have told me about it. And I lived in China back when it was a third world country, right? Is it the younger generation that don't know that it exists? Or is it like, is it more than that?
You know, online, it's really hard to say.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If you're talking to a 12-year-old or a 70-year-old, you don't know, you know, it's like username. And then you can kind of guess from the diction, from the kind of words that they use, but a lot of people are young. A lot of people are young. A lot of people are angry. The ones that are kind of, I guess, settled in their lives and are really busy and they're kind of happy with themselves, they don't waste time arguing with foreigners about the Great Leap Forward online. But like when you're kind of 20 and you're out of a job and, you know, like life might not seem fair to you, this foreigner that is claiming that millions died might make you really upset. And you might feel like this righteous inclination of like being like, you know, no, I'm not going to take that from you, foreigner. And so I don't know who I was talking to, but I was talking to a lot of people. Now, at some point, it became difficult to take the trolls. Like it's really difficult. Like I'm not the kind of person that is aloof. I have never been. I hope I will be, but at this point, no, I'm not. Like when people attack me online, it kind of gets to me. Like I'm the kind of person, like I write books, and when there's Amazon reviews, when there's good reviews, I go like, yeah, okay. But when there's a bad review, I go in it and I'm like, oh shit, yeah.
Right, classic overthinker, right?
Yeah, I should have never published. I'm sorry.
Right, and no, and anxiety, which is what I have too, and perfection, like maybe like perfectionism and everything, which is like all good qualities to have, because I'm sure your book is amazing and those like bad reviewers don't know what they're talking about.
It's, I mean, I heard a phrase yesterday, actually. It's called imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And I think there's something to it where you always feel like, you know, maybe when people like it, they didn't really get it.
Right.
How kind of flawed it actually is, because I know.
Right.
Anyway, it's not about the book. It's like I share my opinions online, and then people get angry and they get aggressive. At some point, I decided to develop a sort of a satirical persona where I would make videos of myself speaking into the phone, and I would be like this foreigner who loves Mao Zedong, who adopts all these talking points that they have, but just kind of overdoes them. I have one of them that I don't know how it came to me, but it is hilarious, where I claim that nobody ever died. And the reason I know this is because my grandpa didn't die in the Great Leap Forward. And so that means nobody died. And if you died in the Cultural Revolution, I'm sorry, but you jumped from a window and you were a counter-revolutionary. What were you thinking? So
that's hilarious.
Well, I don't know how it happened, but people really like these videos. The ones that were angered by them, they didn't really have anything to hold on to, because you know, I was making points for them. And the ones that got it, they were like, okay, let's share this. Like, this is not gonna harm me. This is just gonna go out there and make them angry. So then I went viral. Like, at some point I don't know, it wasn't really big. I was like a Zhonghui, you know, they have these V's on the Chinese internet where you have a verified mark.
Okay, so like the Twitter verified badge kind of thing.
So they call them like the Wei, you know, like the V. So you have the Xiao Wei, just a little V, and then you have the Zhongwei, and then you have the Da Wei, like a Ren Zhiqiang. He would be a Da Wei, like he has tens of millions of followers. He basically sets the agenda on like Weibo in his circle. But I was more like a Zhongwei or like a Xiao Wei. But anyway, like at some point I had 800,000 followers.
Wow.
Yeah, like true or not, like you never know on the Chinese internet what is a bot or not, but it was big. And then at some point they just kind of canceled me from the Chinese internet because I don't know, you know.
How long after did they cancel you?
I lived on Weibo from 2011 to I think 2015.
Okay.
So I had a run of like 4 years, maybe 3.5 years, where amazing things happened. Like amazing, it felt like there was this window where you could communicate with Chinese people, and people were communicating with each other, and the country was moving into a good direction. Even just the part that was online and had enough time to be on Weibo and waste their lives discussing discussing stuff, because most people don't. But it felt really, really good, I gotta say. And then at some point, they just started hacking all these Xiao Wei, Zhong Wei, and then even the Da Wei, like they got Ren Zhiqiang at some point, and now he's even not free anymore. So, yeah.
Are they in jail, or are they just not speaking anymore?
It depends. Like some of them are in jail, but for the most part, they just kind of get your accounts, and then it doesn't matter anymore.
I see.
Yeah, like the problem is if you're an online persona, and if you have like this huge following, there is an incentive to say like, okay, I'm gonna make some money off of that. On the Chinese internet, it's not really easy to just live off advertisements. I've never done any of that. I've never had any sort of business on the Chinese internet. I've never done any sort of advertisements, but I know people who have, and a lot of people, they do it to kind of push their e-commerce. Like this one guy, he would be like this democracy activist, but he also sells sausages. I'm not kidding. Like he's a sausage guy. So then if you have like 1 million followers and they really like you and you also make sausages, you know, that's going to be some income. So when the authorities come and they take your online persona, that's really going to hurt. That's not going to be your ego. That's going to be your money. So it's tough. They don't have to put them in jail, you know?
Right. No, it's right. They cut off their livelihood, which is just as bad.
Or part of it. Yeah.
So did you find yourself, I guess like one of our viewers was asking, and you answered already, basically, you know, how did you like China? And you said, you know, initially you loved it and then you kind of became disillusioned with it after a while. Is my understanding correct? Or
no. I would say I would describe my relationship with China in 3 steps. So the first step is I'm in Germany and I don't know anything about China. And I think kind of like, you know, they all look the same. They're supposedly communists. I read in the news about like these human rights atrocities. And I go like, do I really want to go to a place like that? I don't know. So it's like, it's a negative image of China. Like, I don't even know if people have fun there. Like, honestly, I don't know at that point. And then I go and I find out actually it's super fun. Actually, human rights abuses, they might happen, but I never see them because I'm in Beijing and I'm in the foreigner bubble. And all my friends, they're kind of well-educated, at least middle class. If they're not middle class, they're smiling, you know, they're smiling shopkeepers, smiling hairdressers, smiling fruit vendors. And I love it. And I feel like the media are really not being very fair. That's step 2.
To the Chinese people, right? Like the media doesn't do a good job of bifurcating the Chinese people from the CCP. And is it more like the Chinese people are like, you know, great people and the CCP
No, at that point, I wouldn't, like, that was around, I would say like maybe 2006, 7-ish or something. I would think like, actually China isn't as bad. It's really difficult to go from the dumpster fire that was Mao's China to the China of the 2000s. It's really difficult. And maybe we should give them a break about human rights abuses and all these problems, because it is really difficult to go from this to that. That's how I felt. And I felt like the media are kind of making it out to be like this place where people are kind of, they always talk about like the conformity and like the lack of individualism, as if they're all ants and like everything is about human rights. And I'd be like, no, it's not like that. It's actually a nice, likable place. And a lot of people are leading happy lives. So that's step 2.
Yeah.
Now, step 3 happens once I kind of got deeper into it. My Chinese improved. I actually made friends that were not just smiling shopkeepers, but actual friends. And then after a while, you find out that every single Chinese person, without exception, and this is not hyperbole, it's really without exception, has, at least in their family, some sort of deep, deep trauma. And I recognize that many people have trauma in their lives, personal trauma. Divorce can be traumatic, or people have mental illnesses or physical illnesses, or other things happen, and it's traumatic, but that's not the trauma I'm talking about. I'm talking about social-political trauma. Like people, they would just kind of casually remark and be like, oh yeah, my grandpa, he died in the Great Leap Forward, died of hunger. And you'd be like, oh, did you just kind of drop that bomb over dinner? And you're kind of making it sound like it's normal. It's not normal. It is not. It shouldn't be. It should be something that shocks everybody, but it cannot shock anybody, because everybody has the same trauma. Everybody has these traumatic experiences in their family that are kind of normalized. Yeah. And then you understand that the media, they were not wrong. These atrocities happen. They keep happening. People are getting their houses seized, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. You can be rich or poor. You're never going to be insulated from it. Like
right, you're never safe. It's kind of like I try to view it as like a Tony Soprano situation. You know, you can be Tony Soprano, right? The head of the family, and you're still never completely safe. Not to mention anybody else in that hierarchy, right?
Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Everybody is deeply cynical. Everybody knows that everything is just a show. And that hurt me deeply, I gotta say. That was when it all crumbled. And that doesn't mean I don't like China anymore. I still like it. I just have developed this kind of love-hate relationship where I just want to slap it. Like, I'm like, I like you so much, but don't be like this. I mean, I just want to slap, like, you know, you're in China, you're like, stop traumatizing yourselves. You're nice.
So are you saying that like, you know, one of your like realization was like you found that people weren't their authentic selves because they weren't able to deal with traumas in their past?
I think society as a whole is not authentic. It's not about individuals. Mm-hmm. There is a new generation of young people who are kind of being insulated by their families from all these things, and they don't know anything.
Yeah.
They feel like they're part of some sort of free world where, like me as a German, born in 1981, I'm really very, very far from the human rights abuses that we had in Germany in the Second World War. Those are really far from me. They kind of happened in my grandmother's generation, but I'm very insulated from them. I look at them in history, and we have kind of processed them as a society, or like, no, let's say it that way. We are processing them. Mm-hmm. But for these kids, the processing has never happened, and they're just kind of being insulated from them in an artificial way. Right. I feel like it's not about the individual. I don't think people are like trying to be fake or anything. It's just society as a whole.
It forces that.
Yeah, it's not healthy. It's a very, very unhealthy society, sadly, because it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, and you know what? It's really, really interesting and cool to have an outsider say something like this because, you know, when you're in the inside, you know, and you're living it your whole life, it's hard to say like, okay, what's normal and what's not. But I completely agree with you. And that's why my family and I escaped communist China too, because, you know, we did feel very stifled over there. We didn't feel like we had to be a certain way, right? And like the kids had to be a certain way. Like your you know, your husband has to be a certain way, you know, just everything has to be a certain way. And it's very tiresome. And it's, you know, I think it like robs a lot of like your energy from like your daily life too, right? Just like having to fit into this mold of just like what society expects of you, or what Xi Jinping expects of you, or whatever it is, right? And I don't know when the last time you were in China, but I've been hearing that the youth, right, of China, they're more nationalistic, and because, you know, their parents don't and can't speak to them about what happened in Tiananmen Square, you know, what happened during the, you know, the Great Leap Forward, the Cultural Revolution, like that's just not things that they could talk about. And they're starting like the younger kids are like becoming fanatics. I don't know if that's true. I read that. Can you like maybe like shed some light into that if you have any like firsthand experience or observations?
My last firsthand experience is from 2016. So it's kind of, you know, China is changing so fast. It's
sure.
Be dated, but
yeah.
At that point, I was writing a book about a tour group that went from China to Europe, and I became a member of that group. Like I went to a Chinese tour agency, and I was like, "Can I take a tour of Europe?" And they were like, "You're European." I was like, "Well, I want to." So I paid money. I became a tour group member, and I went to Germany, where I'm from. And I went to France and Italy and with this Chinese tour group because I wanted to know how they feel, what it is like for them. Among us was a little kid, a 小朋友, little friend, who was 11, who insisted on not being the little friend. So I called her 大朋友, big friend. And we became friends. And she was awesome, like a really nice kid, or like a nice person, let's put it that way. When our journey was done, I decided I was going to go to their homes in China and see where they're from, because like that's an additional interesting angle. Where you from, and what did that like cause in you when you went to Europe and looked around at Venice or some crazy place like Paris or something. So I go to her home, I talk to her, and the first thing she says, you know, these foreigners are really evil. And I'm like, you know, I don't know if you noticed, but like you're talking to me here. It's like
right.
Yeah, I'm like, where is this coming from, big friend? And she's like, well, our teacher took us to the Summer Palace, took us to the ruins, that, you know, I think British and French forces had destroyed in the mid-19th century in a very terrible way. There's no point in even trying to whitewash it. It was terrible, but they had taken this group of young kind of post-trauma, post-traumatized kids. Like these kids were born after the 2000s. They're not part of the generation that has even any sort of connection to Tiananmen or any sort of connection to the poverty that was before, or even kind of remembers what China was like when it was not big and strong.
Yeah, true.
But they're trying to make them angry. This generation, like you should feel wronged. You should feel like somebody is trying to take something from you. And I was like, big friend, look at me. Like, I'm a foreigner. And you remember these foreigners that we saw in Europe? You know, you remember this dad that you liked who was playing with a kid? That's also a foreigner. Like, I mean, I remember, I understand these things happened in the past, but like, if you said foreigners are so evil, don't you think that's like a little bit rash? And she was like, yeah, come to think of it, it is kind of rash. But like some are. And I was like, yeah, of course some are.
Right.
And then she said, for some reason, on her own volition, she said, you know, she said, Xi Zhuxi, like our general secretary, Xi, or like, yeah, what's Xi Zhuxi in English? It's the
Xi Zhuxi.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The general secretary. So she's like, he is better than the guys before and possibly like on a level with Mao. And I was like, okay, like this is how you know where the country is going. Because first they're going to get the little kids and then they're going to go from the little kids and get like the others.
Oh, okay. Wait, Xi Zhuxi, like Chairman Xi, right?
Chairman, that's the word I was looking for. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah.
Like this 11-year-old.
Like Mao Zedong, right.
Mao Zedong, yeah. The 11-year-old kid out of nowhere, instead of saying stuff like, I don't know, I like soccer, or I want to be an astronaut, or my teacher is really like a dick or something. Like she doesn't talk about this stuff much. She talks about like the foreigners are bad and Chairman Xi is better than all the chairmen before, maybe kind of like Mao. And I'm like, man, like really, like you're 11. You know, you can kind of see where the country is trying to go. And,
well, I mean, I got to tell you, propaganda, it runs deep, because I was in China only for 4.5 years before I moved to America. And even when I was getting naturalized, getting my citizenship when I was 13, I remember being very upset about it because I was like, oh, I'm going to be a stupid American. Like, because that stuff was still in my mind from when I was 4. And I knew all the communist songs, you know, like, you know, Ma Zhi the Su, what I do, like stuff like that. And I'm just like, I was 4 and I still like had this anti-American, even though I loved living in America and I had a great childhood. Like I was like crying because I didn't want my citizenship. That's how deep the propaganda is. So when you're saying an 11-year-old, I believe you, because I was 4 and I still have that propaganda in me, you know. They do a good job.
They definitely do. I don't know if you got kids.
I do have one.
So is that kid in kindergarten?
She's in preschool right now. She's 3.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but like you must have a mental image of what her kindergarten was like.
Of her kindergarten.
Yeah, when she was in kindergarten, there's stuff on the walls in kindergartens, no?
Oh, so wait, me or her? Because she goes to kindergarten in America.
Yeah. I'm saying your kid in America is
going
to kindergarten.
Yes.
And there's stuff on the walls.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yes. All their artwork. You know, like for, you know, like February's Valentine's Day, they have hearts and you know, pumpkins and stuff like that. So is that not how it is in China?
Yeah, like I've been to a German kindergarten just to kind of mirror it with a Chinese kindergarten that I went to before to look at it. And the German kindergarten had like world peace on the wall, like and then kids of different ethnicities holding hands.
Yep.
And then rainbows and whales and pandas and like all this stuff because like they're trying to indoctrinate these little kids to kind of be mindful of the environment and mindful of others. And they're kind of trying to brainwash little kids in Germany to not be total dicks. They're trying. And then you go to a Chinese kindergarten and there's the Chinese map, there's the Chinese flag, there's the motherland or the fatherland, whatever you want to call it.
Right, motherland.
Nationalistic stuff. And you're like, okay, I understand that you want to do that. But the problem with this is if you're going to put something into a container, let's say this child is a container, this container can only take so much. So if you fill it with this nationalistic stuff, you don't really have the capacity to put in the other stuff that you might need as well. Like it would be nice if they came out and they'd be like, don't drop your plastic wrapper because of the panda. That's what you want 3-year-olds to say. You don't want them to say, Taiwan is a part of my country, right?
Right, agreed. And you know what's the weirdest part about this? And I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of hate for this, but like, I'm sorry, and people are gonna be like, these, you know, Lao Wai and this ABC girl, what do they know, right? That's what they're gonna say. But listen, we have opinions too, right? So I feel like all of a sudden, like China just started claiming Taiwan as their own after like years. I mean, they've always said, okay, Taiwan is ours, but then like they like in the past, I don't know, like 5-10 years, they like came out with a vengeance and was like, you know, you know, here's the 3, you know, red lines you can't cross: Hong Kong, Taiwan, and what was it? I forget what the third one was. Yeah, and so in my mind, I'm just like, wait a second. Taiwan just had a free election. They rejected the, you know, the pro-China, pro-CCP candidate, and they voted for the, you know, the anti-CCP candidate. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm just like, how, like, where did they like suddenly start like, you know, making Taiwan like the integral part of China, like all of a sudden? And I know you're thinking they've always said that, but I just feel like in the past few years, it's been like a given almost when they talk about it. Like Taiwan is ours, you know, and no one can mess with it and no one should mess with it. I mean, do you get that sense at all, or?
I get that, but I interpret it differently. I would say that Deng Xiaoping was a very gifted politician.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. And he had this policy of biding his time. So he never gave up on anything, not on the Senkaku Islands or any other parts of his territory. But he was like, look, we're kind of in a bad spot here after the dumpster fire that was Mao. So like, let's not raise a stink. Let's kind of assume that we're going to get it once we're big enough. So biding his time, that's why it was never on the agenda, really. Like if you would have pressed him, he would have had to say he wants to have it. But since nobody was pressing him and everybody was kind of thinking, well, if they economically make changes, they're going to make political changes eventually, just like anybody else. That was kind of the paradigm of everybody, of America, of Canada, of Europe, of Australia. Everybody was looking at China and thinking like, let's kind of support their economic rise, and then the class is going to be like, we want rights now. That never happened. And at some point they got a leader who sadly is of red background, very strong background, who has never finished school and who is a brute and who kind of takes more from Mao than he takes from Deng Xiaoping. And this guy is thinking, okay, biding one's time is over. I don't need to bide my time anymore. I can just kind of claim it now because I'm really big. And he's kind of right, but he's kind of wrong. What I don't understand is why people in the Communist Party of China don't hate him, because it seems like such a no-brainer to say, these foreigners are idiots. They're thinking we're going to make reforms. We're never going to make reforms. Let's get bigger and bigger. And then at some point, we're going to be so big, this whole question is not even going to be a question. But at this point, under Xi Jinping, it is a question. It's not a given that they're going to get it. So he's kind of like betraying this really smart Deng Xiaoping policy of saying like, let's stay under the radar, let's make money, and wait until we're big enough. This guy kind of comes out and says like, we're big enough. I'm not sure if they are.
Yeah, I know. And I agree with you too. You know, like and plus they're making enemies like left and right. So it's hard. It's hard to see what their cohesive plan is. I guess they're doing China alone. I mean, plus North Korea, Myanmar, I guess.
Well, Russia and Iran, maybe.
Right. But Russia's like such an unreliable partner, I think, right?
Yeah.
But so I guess in connection with that, you're German, right? So it's nice to have like a more neutral. I know you said no one's neutral, but neutral as in I'm American, and other people are Chinese. And so like, what do like the typical German think about the whole like US China like tensions right now? Like, what do they separately think about China and what they separately think about US?
It's really hard to say what people think. I can try to kind of go from the people that I talk to, my friends, those people.
Or the general camps of like people.
There was an interesting poll where people were saying Germans, they trust America less than China at some point under Donald Trump, because we really hate Donald Trump. Like, there aren't many Germans that feel positive about Donald Trump. There are, but not many. And people were interpreting this thing as though Germans kind of preferred China and the Communist Party. But I interpreted it differently. I think the Communist Party was never in a position to disappoint anybody, because nobody had ever had any serious hopes. It was kind of like, okay, change through trade, but they have been kind of dickish all the way along. But America has been this place where we're like, we're friends. Even under George W., we're like, you guys are weirdos, but we're friends. But then you do that and we're like, well, this is really disappointing. This is kind of like, we were kind of dating and now you do this. Then we're kind of gonna go with the guy or the person that we haven't been dating and we know is kind of bad, but at least it's reliably bad.
You're talking about Trump, right?
I'm talking about Trump. Yeah, Trump and Xi Jinping, you know what you're gonna get with the Communist Party. They're gonna be dicks. But with Trump, it's kind of like, we liked you and then you do this and we're like, this is really heartbreaking. So it felt a little bit like, and it does indeed still, that Europeans are kind of trying to be in the middle, not really take sides, which I think is at this point after Trump is not very smart. It would be nice if we had a sort of concerted effort to deal with China.
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
But we're not there, because really this Trump thing was so traumatizing for Europe. I don't know if you can understand. For Germans, generally, the experience of not having been Morgenthaued, after World War II, there were two plans. Either make Germany one big pasture, Morgenthau, like no industry, just pasture, or this, what is it called? General Marshall Plan. Okay. Where America kind of helps us build and helps us shape ourselves into a nice country. And we're like, we love America. And the thing until George W. We love them, or we love you guys. And then you do George W. and we're like, okay, you're weird. And then you do Trump and we're like, this is just fucking heartbreaking.
I know. Hey, I mean, so like half the country agrees with you and half the country still loves the man. I mean, I can't explain it. I wish I could. And many of our viewers love him, and many of your viewers love him.
Not anymore. I got rid of them. My viewers that love Trump, I told them where to go, and they went.
Right. Christoph and I were just saying, we lost a lot of like love from our Trump supporting friends. And you know what? It's so difficult to speak to Trump supporters, in my opinion, because they're operating on like a different set of facts, or anything you say to them, it turns into whataboutism, right? Like, what about Obama? What about, this other person? And I'm just like, let's just talk about the issues at hand, right? So it seems like Trump was very unpopular with the Germans. What was the turning point?
The turning point was basically just the election of Trump. Like, you elected, and I remember that day. I remember going through an inner city, looking around and thinking like, I gotta wake up. This can't be real.
Right.
is a moment kind of akin to, well, I don't want to say 9/11, but it is kind of like that. It feels like the world has changed now. We've moved into a place where I don't know the rules anymore. You did this, like, you know, out of all people, you could have had, what was his name? I really like this Kasich guy. I am not conservative.
Oh, yes, I do too. He's great.
Yeah. Get a conservative guy. Get John Kasich. Have your conservatism. Do it. But
yes, like real conservatism. Conservatism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk about all this stuff. Talk about abortions and stuff. People are going to be unhappy, but do it in a respectful way. But no. But no, it was terrible. I'm sorry.
I mean, no, not at all. And the crazier part is if he just handled the COVID, if he handled the COVID, and if what else? I mean, I think that was the main thing. I think if he just handled that well, he may still be president, which is the scariest thing of all.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it. Like,
right.
I don't want to think about the upside of COVID.
Right, that's true. That's true. It's so grim. So I mean, okay, so then I guess you're saying like the Germans, they didn't have a choice, right? You like America kind of was lost cause, so you're kind of pushed into a more cozy relationship with China. So how, like, take me through that. Like, what has that been like?
Well, basically Europe as a whole, and especially Germany and France, were really export oriented, and we like doing our business with China. It's been this paradigm of change through trade, which kind of, I think most people must have at some point in the mid 2010s must have seen that it's never going to happen. Change is not going to come because you trade with them. It might come because of other things, but it's not going to come because China gets more money. So I don't think Germans are kind of in an illusion about that. It's just that huge companies like Volkswagen or Siemens or whatever in Germany, they have huge power, and they kind of push the government into saying, like, you can either kind of take a tough stance on China and then lose jobs in Germany, which is going to be bad for you, or you can kind of be like, we don't know what America is doing, so let's just kind of cozy up to the CCP. At least they're reliable. We know that they're dicks. They've always been dicks. So, like, let's just kind of work with the dicks then, instead of kind of working with people that we don't know how they're going to change their minds and go Trump. Yeah, so, I think it's good.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the trading. I was reading about Australia's trade with China and how, like, China's gotten so powerful now that, like, they're upset with Australia for inquiring about the, like, COVID origins and wanting to start that investigation, right? So they banned Australian wine, right? Which is, like, I believe 60% of Australian wine is exported to China, like something like that. And they're starting to rethink their strategy with their trading strategy with China, because they're saying they can't just have so much of their stuff go to one country and then have China control them that way. They were also saying that China is the only international relationship where they talk about China in a way where it's fear-based. Like, they fear upsetting them. They fear offending them. There's a lot of fear. Whereas, like, they I think it was the prime minister or someone else who mentioned when they talk to their allies or they talk to their friends, it's more like a friendly conversation and not fear-based. So I think it's interesting that you brought up the trade. I mean, the trade is huge. So how do you see that resolving? Because, like you said, China has 1.4 billion people almost, and the money is so good. We have the same problem in America. Like, how do we get, Disney, NBA, like all these, like, companies that are being bossed around by China, how do we get them to not care about their bottom line and care more about, helping the rest of us fight? I don't know if fight's the right word, but get China in line so that we have fair competition at least.
Well, in a way, I think Xi Jinping, in his own dumb way, is doing a lot of the bidding for us, because what you need isn't so much, I think, well, it's also going to be policy. I do hope that Europe right now, kind of with this grandstanding of being like, yeah, we're between China and the States, I hope we're just kind of playing hard to get for Biden. You know, you're really supposed to commit and make us feel like you came back from this Trumpism. I hope it's that. I hope it's not Europe is seriously thinking about being kind of neutral in the middle. But okay, policy-wise, there's stuff that needs to happen, but I don't know much about that, honestly.
Okay.
But what I think is within the population, what you were saying is like these companies like Disney or the NBA, they shouldn't look so much at the bottom line. I think you're never going to change companies from looking at their bottom line, but there should be a trade-off. It shouldn't be like the people in the States, they don't care, and so you can't lose anyway, but then you have to kind of not hurt the feelings of the Chinese people, you know? Like it should be like, okay, you have to choose. Do you want the Chinese market or do you want the American market? Because American consumers should be more kind of aware of what's happening. They should be aware of stuff like what's happening in Xinjiang, what's happening in Hong Kong, what's happening generally in China. And then these companies, they're going to have to choose. It's not going to be like these idiots in the States, you can have business with them, whatever you do. And so let's cozy up to China. I think as soon as they have to make a choice, the States are not a small market. Europe is not a small market. China seems huge in total numbers, but if you're going to have to choose, maybe you would like to also kind of make people in the States or in Europe happy, I think, as a company, as opposed to, and actually like hurting the feelings of the Chinese people. It's a thing that the Chinese Communist Party makes up.
Yeah.
But you could actually hurt American consumers and it wouldn't be made up. They would really be angry at you. So yeah, I think as soon as that happens, and I've been starting to get this kind of feeling among average Germans. And when I say average, it's kind of my friends, basically, people I talk to. So it might not be a good kind of subset of the population.
Like anecdotally, right?
Yeah, anecdotally, exactly. Not evidence, but just like from my personal experience. But like during this COVID thing, a lot of my friends are kind of apolitical when it comes to China. They're like, I don't know, as a white person, it is kind of difficult to judge previous victims of colonialism and imperialism by your own standards and be like, do this, do this, do this. I gotta say, I'm kind of sympathetic to the Chinese joint venture thing where they go like, okay, you want to sell cars in China, you're going to do a joint venture. That's how it's going to be. It's not going to be you cornering the market and us not getting anything. It's not going to be like that. I am sympathetic towards that because I think like a lot of our wealth is kind of comes from these old structures. It's like we had centuries of just an advantage in this industrial revolution, colonialism, imperialism, and everything. And now we're like, okay, now it's going to be fair though, guys. No, how can you just claim it's going to be fair from now on that you already have all this advantage? So I'm sympathetic towards it. And I don't want to be the person that kind of preaches to others. And I feel like a lot of Germans are like that. They're like, okay, well, the Chinese are not playing fair, but let's not judge them. Let's not be mean to them. This COVID thing changed a lot. When I remember sitting with friends and then this news came out that the Chinese foreign ministry was kind of seeding these conspiracy theories about like, oh, the virus came from Italy or Germany or the States.
America.
You know, I remember looking into my friend's face, a girl, apolitical, has never been to China, doesn't care about China. China is just kind of cute people and rice. And she was like, no, this is enough. I'm sorry. Fuck them. You know, and she doesn't mean fuck Chinese people, but she means like, fuck the Chinese government. Like at some point it's enough. Sorry. Like even these apolitical Germans are gonna be like, okay, you know, done.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happens, it gets more difficult for these companies to just kind of do whatever, I think.
Okay. No, that's a great answer.
For my language, by the way, it just kind of comes
No,
out.
no, I love it. I'm like so engrossed in what you're saying because honestly, I believe everything you believe in, and I think it's really cool that like the Germans are so like involved in like this like whole like US China like I just think it's very cool because like my family and I, we escaped from communist China, right? We were part of the pro-democracy movement. We came in the 90s, and we've always been sounding the alarm on China, like, hey, listen, like China's not that great, like this is what they're gonna do. And like finally, since Trump became president, like we're finally starting to see what, you know, all of us have been sounding the alarm bells on. So it's very refreshing to hear it coming from your mouth and not coming from my mouth, because, you know, my friends are sick of me saying this for like the past 10 years. And it's very cool to see that you see it too.
It's happening. Yeah. The mood is changing.
So what are your thoughts about the CCP? Like while you were living there and now that you're away?
I don't think the Chinese Communist Party is evil. I don't think that. Okay. I think roughly 1 in 15 people, or a little bit less maybe, in China is part of the Communist Party. I know people who are kind of within the system and who are ruthless, but who are not in the party. And I know people who are absolutely kind, and they kind of became party members at some point in their lives, but they're not into this whole thing. I know people who are active in the party in not high positions, but kind of medium positions, and they are smart, they're educated, they don't like what they're seeing, but what can they do? It's a very brutal machine. I don't think all of them should be, I don't know, I think it's kind of silly to kind of say like, yeah, I mean, they're evil just for being in this party. I just don't support that point. I think the Communist Party is being hurt by Xi Jinping and his style. It would have been nice to, you know how they had one-man rule under Mao, and it was a disaster. And then Deng Xiaoping, with all his failures and all his faults, he made this one-party rule where they have a rule of 10 years, and they're going to switch the government, which, when you think about it, is really difficult to do. The one thing that democracies do well is to transfer power.
Right.
Like
Merkel, right.
Yeah, a chancellor like Merkel, she can just be a pensioner. She can just retire and grow plants and play chess or whatever she does. And there's not going to be people that are going to put her in jail or go after her family. That just doesn't happen. And that's nice for her. That's nice for us. And China kind of made this impossible thing happen where they go like, okay, Jiang Zemin, 10 years. He holds on a little bit longer, but at some point he goes, and then it's Hu Jintao, and everybody was making fun of Hu Jintao for being a robot. But then now you look back and you're like, where is my Hu Jintao?
Right, I miss that guy.
I missed the one-party dictatorship now that I have a one-man dictatorship again, and this guy doesn't even want to leave. Like, he's like, well, it's going to be me forever, potentially. And so I think he's hurting the Communist Party. I think the Communist Party is showing a weakness that reminds me, incidentally, of the GOP, where you think like, why is the GOP with these conservative, I imagine a conservative person to be kind of stubborn. You have to be kind of stubborn and kind of strong-willed to be conservative. You have rules in your life and principles, and you stick to them. You go like, no abortion, that's me, I'm Christian, no abortion, fine. And then Trump comes and he just kind of captures the whole boat, and everyone's like, yeah, Trump now. And you're like, are you guys serious? Like, where is your conservatism with this?
We'll never understand like this, because I'm a Republican and I will never understand in a million years, you know?
Yeah, I don't think all Republicans are evil, but what I do think is that the Republican Party as a whole, just like the CCP, is weak. Weak because there isn't anything to balance out Trump. There isn't anything to balance out Xi Jinping, and an organization like that is very dangerous, I think. And so I don't know what's going to happen to the CCP, but right now, a lot of my Chinese audience, they in a sarcastic way, they really like Xi Jinping because they're saying this guy is going to destroy the Communist Party.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. That is a very interesting thought. So that was actually more my question to you, not less like, what do you think about the CCP, but what do you think about Xi Jinping and the Politburo? And you mentioned it already. You're saying that you see Xi Jinping as this greater than life figure, but the Politburo, you see them as weakening under Xi Jinping, right? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if the Politburo, if they really play that much of a role right now, if anybody plays that much of a role in the Communist Party. It feels like there is a vortex and Xi Jinping is in the middle, and everything is kind of moving towards him, all the power. And it looks really, really unhealthy, to be honest.
So like, where do you get that sense from? For like those of us viewers who haven't been in China, like where do you get that sense of the power center moving from the Politburo or a committee to Xi Jinping, one man?
There is so many things. There is is ubiquity a word? Like there's propaganda posters with him personally everywhere now. Like, and they've been around for years. Even when I was there, like 4 or 5 years ago, he is everywhere, much more than his predecessors. This Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao, they had this kind of double thing where Wen Jiabao is kind of the cute grandpa and Hu Jintao is kind of the robot. And it's kind of like, yeah, we are a party, an organization, and we are dictators, but it's not one of us.
Right.
But with Xi Jinping, it's become like Li Keqiang is actually one of these people where, from the outside perspective, he is highly educated. He is not an ideologue. He actually wants to make stuff happen, but he looks like a joke because Xi Jinping is just kind of waltzing through everything, and it's kind of like, yeah, he's also kind of there. Xi Jinping getting rid of the 10-year rule should have been I don't know, from the view of a Communist Party member, let's put it this way, you want to advance within the structure, right? So if you're working in a company and your boss has a boss above them, and that boss has a boss above them, that top boss needs to go for you to advance. Like everybody kind of moves up. But if the top boss, if he says like, no, I'm going to stay here, that kind of makes all the structure fossilized, right?
Right. So are there more disgruntled people now under Xi Jinping? One would imagine.
Would they dare to tell us?
Yeah. So we don't know, right? We can just assume.
There must be a generation of people who had kind of made plans and been like, okay, this guy 10 years and then us. That's what it was like. So what's there for them? What are they going to do? Go into private business now? It's much better to be in the Communist Party and be the ruler of the country as opposed to being some sort of Jack Ma that can just disappear.
Right. Because they're going after the business people now too. So you don't even know how much money you can make before they come after you, which is scary. All right.
Yeah, it's pretty, let's say, it's pretty worrying.
Yes. No, I agree with you. So under Xi Jinping's rule, did you like living in China?
I didn't live under Xi Jinping's rule. I visited. I lived from 2005 to 7. Okay. I walked from 7 to 8. And then after that, I lived for like 3 months, a month, 3 months, something like that. For a foreigner with a white face who kind of keeps his mouth shut, it's awesome. It's even awesome now. Like, you know, if you're going to have your VPN, you're going to have your friends, you're going to have awesome food. You're going to marvel at things like you can pay with your phone for jackfruit. It's fun. Nobody says it's not fun, but you have to kind of not be aware of all the things around you, and you have to not be aware of the trauma. And then it's fun.
Well, can you tell us about your trip have you been to Shanghai before?
Yeah.
So like I haven't been for the past 10 years, and it's because my father isn't allowed in anymore. But I hear that like there are certain sections of Shanghai, and I don't know if Beijing's like this, where it's exclusively for foreigners. So it's like the Chinatown version, but for foreigners in China. Right? Is that, have you ever like lived there or been there or can tell us about that?
I lived in Shanghai for a couple of months, like 3 months or something when was that? 2010. So my information is also dated, but it wasn't like that. It's just kind of foreigners, they flock to a certain kind of infrastructure. It doesn't have to be a policy of any kind. It's just foreigners. A lot of us don't know Chinese. We need our kind of the bars that we're used to, We don't need KTVs, but we need bars. We need sort of just the infrastructure, and then we flock there. But it happens everywhere. You're always going to have in international cities, you're going to have this place where the expats hang out and tell you about life.
Do you think the government treats you guys better than the average Chinese citizen?
Most definitely.
Okay.
As a white foreigner from, let's say, a Western country, you might have government officials on top of you, but below you is everyone else, and it feels really nice. Like right. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it feels nice. Yeah.
Right. So I, when I talk to some of my friends who do go back to China, and they, during the good days, right, where everyone was making money from China, they would come back and they would say, Angel, China's not horrible, like you said. China's amazing, and it's so great. They rolled out the red carpet for me and everything like that. And it's really good for you to like tell our viewers the distinction between being somebody that's like wined and dined as a foreigner in China versus, your Lao Baixing who like live there every day. It's like a completely different story for the both of you, right? So so I think it would be disingenuous for like anybody who isn't like a Chinese citizen to really like speak intelligently about what's going on a day-to-day, right?
Let's put it this way. What my travels have taught me sounds kind of awesome, but walking on the Silk Roads from China, I've reached Turkey now. I had to cross Iran. Before I went to Iran, I was horrified at the thought of walking through Iran because I was like, kind of the same thing as before going to China. I was like, okay, they're all fanatics. They have this super dictatorship going on. I don't know what kinds of people they are. It's going to be horrible. I get there. Iranians are awesome. They're so much fun. They love singing, dancing, partying, drinking, smoking. They're super fun, and they love poetry. If a person loves poetry, they still have a chance of being a dick, but the chance is kind of lower.
Right, hear ya.
Yeah. And then you're there, and you find out that you with a white face, Iran is awesome. Nothing is going to happen to you. People are going to be super nice to you. You might have run-ins with the police where they're a little bit confused about you, but then it's kind of like, oh, you're German. Welcome to the country. It's nice. But then once you take the time to talk to Iranian people, the same Iranian people that were so nice to you, and we're kind of getting that homemade alcohol for you, and we're showing off their dresses or like their suits or whatever and having fun. And you talk to them, and then you go like, really, your uncle got shot, and that's normal? That's not normal. I don't want to be in a society, even as a guest, where this kind of information isn't super shocking. It should be at least super shocking. Yeah. You can have it, but you can't just kind of drop it in the conversation. And it's like, by the way, my uncle got shot. You're like, no, not by the way. This is like the main topic now, and it's horrible. But because it happens to so many people, it's kind of like, by the way.
Yeah.
It's in China. Fun. Right. White people are going to have fun wherever we go. We can go to any kind of regime, and it's always going to be fun for us. And then we go back and we tell other white people that the place is awesome.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Right.
Go to Iran. It's so much fun. It is for you.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit of like white privilege there too, right?
Not a little bit, a lot.
I can't say that because I'm not white, but you can certainly.
I don't buy into the white guilt where people are constantly kind of making themselves feel responsible for everything that's going on in the world. I think other ethnicities have their whole right to screw up their home places by themselves. It's not always white people that are kind of fucking up all kinds of places. Right. But the privilege of going to places like China, Uzbekistan, Iran, nowadays even Turkey, and kind of being there and being like, oh, it's nice. Everybody's so friendly to me, and it's cool. People think I'm attractive and smart. That, I'm sorry, but that is what it is. It's, enjoy it, but don't think everybody is like you.
Yeah, no, I know that is very apt. That's a very apt observation. And I think more people should heed to that for sure. So I know you can't speak for all Germans, but like, I guess what do like overall the Germans, like what are their like hopes for the United States now that Joe Biden's president, you know, hopes for US and Germany, hopes for Germany and China, hopes for US and China. So like a three-pronged question. We can start with America, Joe Biden first.
I think a lot of Germans, I mean, we have a new right-wing party and they have about, let's say 15%. So you could say like 1 in 8 Germans would be kind of pro-Trump. But the rest,
so they were influenced by the whole MAGA movement, right?
They came before the MAGA movement.
Oh, okay.
But they kind of share the same ideals, you know, like there is a sense of impending doom because white people are going to be replaced by other people and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a subset of the population that is kind of pro-Trump, but I think most Germans, whatever they're leaning, you know, I vote green. I'm not going to agree with a person that votes kind of center-right on many things, but we share this common denominator that we kind of look at Biden and we think like, it's not really super inspiring, but you know, it's a normal person.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the best we got right now. So I think a lot of Germans, we would like to see some continuity. It's not about like you have Biden now, but how about in the next election, you don't screw it up.
Yeah.
You get right wing, left wing, really nobody cares that much. But like something stable, something predictable, because that's nice. I think a lot of people would share that. Like if somebody is kind of steering the States and with the States, all the other countries that are looking towards the States into a direction of let's not screw up the climate, let's kind of rein in China a little bit if we can. And generally like, yeah, let's kind of prosper together if we can. That would be nice.
Right. No, and it's actually amazing. I had no idea how much Europe and the rest of the world relies on America until Trump came along and we were gone. And I was like, wow, people actually really like America. You know, you would never get that sense. I didn't get that sense beforehand because people are always like, America, they're so annoying. The world police, you know, they're busybodies. Everything they touch, you know, so you hear all these bad things. And then suddenly when Trump's president, I'm like, oh, wow, the world misses us. This is news to me. They don't hate us. They actually need us. Wow. You know, so that was an interesting thing that I learned.
Yeah. It's been a kind of a complicated relationship all these years of kind of liking America and also kind of seeing the faults. But when Trump came, it was only faults.
Oh, yes.
So that it doesn't get easier.
Right, yeah. Right. And when you say faults, like what do you mean specifically? Like I know what I found very faulty, but what would you say were your discontent with it?
I don't think there are many Germans that would support the Iraq war, just as there are not many Americans, even among Trumpists. Not many people would support that. And I remember at that point being in Europe, I was in France, and the general kind of gist in the population was like, they're going crazy over there. Like, what are they doing? You know, like Afghanistan, okay, we kind of get it. Like people from there, they orchestrated this thing that really hurt you. So, okay, you bombed them. It's not going to work out, but you bombed them. Okay. But now you do this and we're like, okay, this is really fucked up. You're behaving like a bully. Sorry. And then you do freedom fries in the Senate or whatever. It's just kind of ridiculous. But those were faults in a country that is still kind of leading in you know, like promoting human rights, has a kind of like at the top of it has a very successful education system, not if you ignore the bottom, you know, and it's kind of like a place where we look to and we're like, it's nice to have them on the team. But with Trump, it's kind of like, yeah, they're not on our team anymore. So it doesn't really matter. People say like, okay, Trump didn't really invade anybody. That's nice. I give him that. Like he really didn't start another Iraq war, but he didn't feel like he's on anybody's team anymore. And it felt, honestly, it felt like he might invade Iran just because he has constipation in the morning, you know?
Right. For his own ego, right?
during the Soleimani thing, I was talking to a good friend in Iran, and she was like, I'm doing my math homework for university, but I don't know if America is going to attack my country.
Oh my gosh.
How does that feel? And I'm like, just get out of there. Just get out of there. And I can't even say like, yeah, the Iranian government is terrible, but like this dude in power in the States and kind of being like on a whim, you know, you don't know what he's going to do and he might just attack you. Come on.
Yeah.
That's not just a fault. That's like,
right.
You look at it and you're like, that's just overall really shitty.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. I mean, yeah, so that's why it amazes me why like so many Americans still voted for him. But I think a lot of Americans don't care a lot about foreign policy, you know, and I think maybe that's probably why. I mean, I cannot for the life of me think of, you know, any like legitimate reasons. The only thing that I credit Trump for is starting like the war with China, because I think before him, like none of like the presidents were too diplomatic, and I think if Hillary were to be president, she'd also be very diplomatic about it, right? And I think somebody needed to bring China like to the forefront of like our like, you know, thoughts, because of what, you know, with Huawei, with the 5G networks, you know, with the intellectual property theft, and just the whole, you know, with Taiwan, with Hong Kong, with just like the list goes on and on, right? So I that's the thing that I credit Trump for. He brought China to everyone's attention, right? And then he failed miserably after that. It was just incompetence right after, like incompetence after incompetence after that. Yeah. So I do think Joe Biden is trying to build a coalition with Europe. I understand Europe is not as trusting of America as they used to be. You know, hopefully we can earn that back, right?
It would be nice.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you have to earn anything, but it would be good if you just kind of try to be your good self.
Yeah.
And I think that will be enough. It's not about earning anything. Europe is not like somebody who you need to win favor with. I don't think so. But if you're your reliable self, it's gonna be enough. Just be you. Well,
I think we do need allies though, right? Like I think we need
Yes. But allies will come to you if you're just being your reliable self.
Correct.
I'm saying like I don't see like this kind of hierarchy of like, America is like you I don't know, you were kind of behaving badly and now you need to do something for us. No, just try to be your good self. Reliable. I love that. You could be totally conservative for a couple of years if you want. I think it's wrong, but you know, it's fine. But
what's your definition of conservatism?
Well, for example, I had friends over from the States and they're Trump voters and I love them.
Right.
And it's really difficult to kind of handle this because I really, like, honestly, this might sound surprising, but I think a Trump voter to me is more disappointing than a Chinese defender of the Communist Party. Because I feel like...
I agree.
Yeah, if you come from a free country with an education system that is like in the States, really society is giving you all the opportunities to not be a Trump voter, to not be a bigot, but still you managed. So it's kind of an accomplishment that is horrifying. But if you're from China and like they've been just kind of trying to put the stuff into you, it's kind of like, you know, maybe once you kind of scale the wall and you come outside, you still got a chance. So I'm hanging out with my Trump supporter friends. And for me, they're first friends and then Trump supporters. When I talk to people online, I might kind of dismiss them, but I don't dismiss my friends. So I try to kind of feel like, why Trump? And they talk about this conservative talking point about how they think that Hillary Clinton wants to or wanted to legalize abortion until like the last moment. Like basically you're like birth, but still you can abort. And I was like, I don't think that's true.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no.
I don't think anybody wants that. And me personally, like on this particular issue, I am more liberal than they are. But I respect their conservatism because really I understand the point of saying a baby in a stomach doesn't have a voice. It cannot say, I want to live. So somebody outside should at least be his advocate or her advocate and say like, let him live or her live. From a Christian or whatever standpoint, I understand that. I don't think it's evil to say, from this standpoint, I want to protect that life. What you do with it, you can be super harmful to women, to society in general. And I am more liberal there, but I respect this conservatism. I think it's more, in the end, it's more about like, do you want to legalize abortion until the 2nd month, the 4th month, maybe the sixth month? There is some sort of gray zone where your conservatism or your liberalism, you have a different definition of what's appropriate. This is how I see it. Like, I mean, a lot of questions about how many immigrants do you want? How many do you think your society can handle? We might have different opinions. We might have different positions. I might think more, you might think less. I respect that. I just don't respect this, this loudmouth nationalism, this kind of like unreliable populism that Trump was pushing.
Sure, and incompetent too, right? Yeah. Like, right, like I feel like everything that he tackled, it just like he would start to do a good job on it, and then he would backpedal and just, you know, do a horrific job on it, right? With the Huawei thing, with the TikTok thing, he would have like, he said he wanted to bring manufacturing jobs back, and then he like decided against it. So it's just like, you're right, he's super unreliable, and I'm glad we got rid of him. And, you know, now we just have Xi Jinping to deal with.
You do. I think you also have Trump to deal with, and you have to deal with the fallout. I don't think Trump is over. I think right now, I don't know about other places or other people, but I think the world is looking at America and we're like, okay, you dodged a bullet, but people are still firing. And it's kind of like, what's going to happen in 4 years? Nobody knows. What's going to happen in 8 years? But you could still kind of get back on track and, you know, have a normal debate between what's left and right. But you kind of went off track there, and it's not sure that you're not going to go back, you know, just kind of flying, whatever. So I don't think Trump is over. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't want to write Trump off because it was so scary the very first time where he won, right? But I'm sorry?
A Trumpism. He doesn't have to live. He could have a heart attack tomorrow. He would become a martyr. He would become an idea, and he might even be stronger than before, because it's this idea that doesn't just die with an election. And
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying. He represents something so much more. But from what I see, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but from what I see is like he seems to be the only one charismatic enough to pull it through. Because you have like Josh Hawley, you have Ted Cruz, you have Rubio, and like I just can't fathom any of them like being able to stir up the base the way Trump can. And if it makes you feel any better, I believe only 25% of Americans are registered Republicans, right? And only 60% of those 25% want Trump to run again, you know, and we're 4 years out. So who knows what can happen in 4 years, right? So that's a very small portion of the American population, in my opinion, right? So and in January, 140,000 Republicans left the Republican Party, as opposed to 79,000 Democrats, because of the January 6th insurrection. So I'm just giving you hope that, you know, America, I feel like America, this is what I love about America as an immigrant, all right? I feel like Americans are very like centrist people, right? You have like, you know, you swing to the left, right? And then the midterms, they swing right back. Like during Obama years, you had the Tea Party, they swung right back, right? And then you have Trump, and then you had the blue wave during the 2018 midterms. And I love that about American politics, like about how people just know to not give any one party that much power. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that about American politics. I don't know what it's like in Germany though.
Oh, it's more in the center even. Like the pendulum doesn't swing as wildly now.
Oh, okay.
We've learned a very tough lesson from the swinging of the pendulum to the left or the right.
Are you a two-party system as well?
No. Parliamentary system, it's going to be a coalition anyway.
Oh, okay, and, gotcha.
People like stability. We like having chancellors for 12, 15 years. We're fine with it. Kind of, steering the ship in a very stable way. I would like to be optimistic about the States. Like I like the state. I spent a year in Wichita, Kansas, of all places, in 1998, 1999, as a foreign exchange student. I liked it. I liked the States. I like the dynamics. I like how, coming from a German perspective, Germans, we are not very generous towards other people's successes. That's not something that we have. It's kind of like, you're successful and I'm kind of gonna be brooding. I'm gonna be like, why is he selling more books? But this general feeling that I got in the States was like, you're successful, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. And you fail, you go bankrupt, and then you try again and everyone's like, awesome. I like that. Honestly, I really like that. And I wish we would learn that in Germany.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the sense of optimism, right?
Yeah. And the sense of like, you accomplished something, good for you. Awesome.
Is that not how it is in Germany?
No. Oh no.
Really? No. So what's a typical conversation like? Like, if I'm like, hey, Christoph, I just sold my cosmetic company for $1 million. How's your cosmetic company going?
No. Yeah. I remember going to the States and people had been warning me about the superficial character of Americans. Okay. And it is not a superficial character, but I think as a country of immigrants that move a lot within the country and the country being really big, Americans have to get used to being really good at small talk. You kind of get stuck at a bus stop with a random American and you're going to be like, oh, the weather. And I don't know, did you see the football game? And
yes.
Yeah, call me Rachel and call me when you're in town. And you're going to be like, you're not supposed to call her when you're in town. It was just small talk, but it was kind of nice because you created this sense of intimacy and knowing each other. For Germans, that's really weird. We're going to stand at the bus stop and be like, I'm not going to, why would I even talk to you?
You're right.
It's more fossilized kind of society. And the sense of kind of someone else being successful, that's not something we celebrate. Your own success, you're not even supposed to really show it.
Oh, interesting. China's very similar. And I have to tell you, the same way you're talking about America, when I first went to America, everyone's smiling, everyone's happy. And everyone's saying hi to each other when they walk by. I was like, so scared. I was like, what's going on? Like people are like, you know what I mean? Like, why are they smiling at me? And like in China, like people, like the grownups, they don't care about the little kids, but like in America, like they go crazy over like little kids. And it's just like this whole like different culture. And you're right, like everyone's like very like happy-go-lucky, and then you kind of just adopt it as you get older when you become assimilated.
I like that. I like this kind of this optimism and this kind of pushing others forward and celebrating other successes. I really like that about the States. I hope you never get rid of that. I think
absolutely not.
Yeah, sometimes in the Trumpist way, where people kind of brag about themselves to no end, it looks ridiculous from the outside. Everything being terrific and the best you've ever had. From a German perspective, you're like, dude, stop talking about yourself. Like the richest guys in Germany, do you know this Aldi, the chain of stores?
Yes, the grocery shop, right?
Yeah, they're two brothers. They used to be the richest men or the richest people in Germany. And there were basically no pictures of them because they lived secluded lives just with their wealth. And they never showed it to anybody. And basically they could walk through a city and nobody would know. But they would be billionaires, much, much, much richer than Trump will ever be.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yeah. He's a big businessman anyway.
Trump is kind of easy to be richer than. But what I'm trying to say is like, it's not a culture of celebrating your wealth, for better or for worse. I think sometimes Americans would be nice to kind of tone it down a little bit, for your own success, but celebrating other successes. That's something that is really beautiful about the States. I gotta say, it's awesome. I love it.
Do you think you'll ever return anytime soon?
To where?
To the States.
Well, right now I want to finish my walk. And the reason you were saying about my beard,
yes,
I went back to Xinjiang, to China, to Western China in 2016, and I decided to try to finish this walk. So I walked through the stans, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, these places, Iran. Now I'm in Georgia. I'm stuck here because of COVID. And all the way, I again don't cut my hair and I don't shave my beard. I cannot go anywhere. I feel like if I were to go to the States right now, I would be kind of cheating on my, let's say, my partner. The way has become kind of my love interest, you know, and I can't just kind of, you know, travel through the Rocky Mountains right now. It would feel like cheating. So I don't know when I'm going to get home. I hope I will get home. I hope I can kind of restore my regular, because I look like Karl Marx right now. Have you noticed?
I like it. It's a very distinguished look, but I like you clean shaven as well. I saw you're clean shaven and I was like, holy moly, look like a whole different person there.
I don't like this look, but what can I do? But after there's so many places I want to see. I would like to travel without having this thing over my head of, yeah, you need to walk to Germany. It's like this huge mission. Yeah, that would be nice.
So how long is it going to take for the rest of your journey? Like how many more months?
I think I could easily walk. Well, no, let's not use the word easily, but I think I could walk it in like, let's say a year to 1.5 years.
Wow.
But it depends on the circumstances. Because it depends a little bit on, not a little bit, it depends like in a major way on the pandemic. I think it would be possible to kind of go to Turkey and walk now, but I would feel like a dick, honestly. Like I don't want to be a pandemic tourist where I go like, yeah, you guys are on lockdown, but I'm a tourist and I'm kind of walking through here. I just don't want to do that. So I want to be in a position where I feel like it might not be perfect, but at least it's kind of responsible. I don't know when that's going to be. So until then, I'm stuck here. I'm renting this apartment in Tbilisi in Georgia. It's a nice place. I got 4 cats right now. And what I'm saying right now, I have, when people ask me, I have a plan for what's going to happen with the cats when I continue walking. I have friends here. They're going to keep them for me. And then I'm going to come back. So I'm not gonna,
that was my primary concern. I'm like, what are you going to do with the cats?
No, it's all taken care of. The cats are with me.
That's awesome. That's great of your friends too. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to you going back on the road and having more adventures for us, right?
I would like that, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to take up any more of your time.
It's fun.
But I know you've written a few books and, you know, I want you to like tell us about them and which one's your favorite and which one would, you know, if you had to pick one, which one would you want us to read?
Well, the problem is that my books are out in German, Chinese, and Russian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's no book. There's really not much point in talking about it unless somebody wants to make them in English. I'm always trying to find somebody who will translate and publish them. I think the most interesting book is my book about walking from Beijing to Ürümqi. It's a journey through a country that I kind of know, that I've studied, where I speak the language, but I'm still an outsider, and I go through, I think, a personal journey and a journey through the country. And I think it's not a bad book. When I get a good review on Amazon, I'm like, yeah, it's not that good, but it's not bad.
So no, I'll get that book for my parents. They'll love it and they'll read it in Chinese. So I can get it in a Kindle?
I think so, yeah. Try to get it from the Taiwanese publisher because the Chinese publisher, they censored stuff. I have some sexual stuff in there. I have some political stuff in there. And Chinese censors, they're merciless. Like I have the documents where they use the red pen. I have them.
Can I? Oh, wow, that's really cool. It'd be cool if you could send us a picture of that. I would love to see that.
Definitely. I have it online.
Oh yeah, okay. That'll be really cool. I would love to see that. But I was going to say, so you have that book and we can get it in Chinese, so we can definitely get that. And then I was looking for your book on eBay and it was like $63.
Yeah, because it's like you would order some Chinese import or a German import or whatever. It doesn't make sense. Like one of my wishes would really be to have an English edition of my book, because my blog is in English. I post about my travels in English because I want to reach people not only in Germany, but also in China or in Iran or in America or in Brazil. And I feel like English is a good language to do that, not German, not
so
French.
Right. Yeah. Because it's more universal, right?
Yes.
So why don't you Google translate it and then just proof it?
Oh, I don't know.
No?
No. I'm not going to rate my book that way. Like,
okay,
you're either going to get it in a nice way or in no way. Like, no.
Okay. I mean, I'm, just putting suggestions because for our show, we have to do Chinese subtitles too. So like the way we do it is we put it in the Google Translate, and then it's obviously gibberish. And then we go and we fix it. And it's still less time consuming than going and translating into Chinese, But
writing a book is such a painful process.
Sure.
And then you have so much editing. You have so many self-doubts. You have so many sleepless nights where you don't produce anything. And then when it's done, and it's this imperfect little thing that you made, and it's kind of like a baby, I couldn't insult it by putting it through Google Translate. Like people are either going to have it in a good way or no way. Like it's not going to happen.
I hear you. So hopefully we'll be looking out for that soon, and you'll get a publisher after this COVID thing.
Would be nice. Yeah, would be nice.
Yeah, we can read about it in English, which will be really great. But in the meantime, we will check out your blog, right? You have all these amazing YouTube videos online that I love, that I absolutely love. And you're a great cinematographer. I can't believe you shot all of that yourself. Did you do it on an iPhone?
Oh, no, I use a bunch of cameras. Like
like professional cameras?
Like semi, I would say. Like professional cameras are really big, but I carry stuff around that is kind of good.
Wow. Well, you can tell it's really, really nice. I was like, wow, this looks professionally shot. I couldn't believe it. So I can't wait to show our viewers that. I can't wait, to like link everything, your blog and all of that good stuff. And then we also can't wait to, have COVID be over and have you go on in your journey and finish.
That would be nice. Yeah, I'm going to miss the cats, but it would be nice.
Yeah. And then come and visit us in America, in New York.
That'd be awesome. Bagels?
Yes. And then we can road trip in my RV, do a cross-country trip.
You have an RV?
Yes, we got an RV because of the... I'm sorry?
You don't have to walk?
You don't have to walk. We can RV the whole way.
Awesome. With a cooler and Dr. Pepper?
It's bigger than my first Manhattan apartment. It's awesome. It's a 40-foot like RV. It has like bunk beds. It has a queen size bed. It has a bathroom, kitchen, living rooms.
You're a rich person.
Yes.
Nice.
So in 2 years after you walk home, come over here and we'll have a fun time. I'm serious. Just come over here and we'll have a fun trip together. And you can do a video on that. And you can meet. Yes, go ahead.
I was thinking Dr. Pepper in a cooler, but from what it sounds like, it's going to be Dr. Pepper in an actual fridge.
Yes, in an actual fridge. And you can meet all these cool like people. Like like when you were saying that you were like going around meeting people, you were meeting these Iranians and they were just really cool. Same thing when I travel through America. I go through America, and even though I go through the South and it's like, you hear about it and people have Confederate flags up, still the nicest people in the world. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to hate on anybody because you're like, we're all so similar. We're just driven apart by polarization. So I think you would really enjoy that. And
awesome.
Yeah. So if there's nothing else that you want to say to our viewers today, I had such a great time speaking with you. And hopefully we'll have you back here again soon.
Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for giving me the time. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Have a great night.